This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
Podcast with your hosts, Rob Clark and Doug Campbell.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Quick Hits, a JFK assassination news and notes podcast. I am 50% of your host, Rob Clark, and along with me is my beautiful co-host, Doug Campbell of the Dallas Action.
Beautiful co-host. Well, thank you for saying so, sir. That was very nice of you.
Yes. Yes.
How you been, buddy?
You are a handsome man.
Well, thank you very much.
I have been fabulous.
As have I, man. As have I. Been busy as ever, trying to catch up with this research, man, for sure. Got a lot going on.
I'm excited to do this show again with you for a month. So here we are finally, and I couldn't be happier.
We are finally back at it, and we've got a lot to talk about. We're about to drop another 2.5 hour marathon on them, I think. What do you think?
Yes. Welcome to Long Hits, a JFK assassination news and notes podcast.
It's a long podcast featuring shorter, quicker hits on different subjects. That's the whole.
That's right.
That's the dichotomy. Right. That's what they don't see, but that's kind of our fault too, you know. Because we go in depth, we go in detailed, analytical, historical study and analysis, right?
And we're entertaining as hell doing it. So buckle up, people, because we got a hell of a show for you today. We have some fantastic emails. We have some Facebook shenanigans to get to. We've got some topical news stories. And we got some great topics we're going to get into and discuss.
That's right. And Rob, you know what? The first thing I want to get to is kind of jumping off something that you brought to the table on the last Quick Hits on episode 22, the John Martin film out of Dallas, Texas. Well, guess what? Had some people that we know reach out to me and provide me with some information. So you know what that means, buddy?
What's that?
It's time for another Doug's special report here on Quick Hits. All right, Rob.
Yes.
All right, here we go, Rob. Special report on Quick Hits. Doug's special report. This is the second time we've done this. Does that now is it just me, man, or does that music like really get you pumped up? It does me.
It does. It's like, some 70s NFL music, you know what I mean?
Dude, it makes me think of Terry Bradshaw, Howard Cosell, and Don Meredith. Not Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw because he was right. Not the broadcaster Bradshaw, but because he was playing in that era. When you and I grew up in the mid late 70s through the 80s.
Right.
Every Monday night, dude. I remember being in elementary school and I would beg to stay up just through they would do halftime highlights on Monday Night Football. So on Monday's a school night, but I would get to stay up, watch the first half of the game and the halftime highlights, and then it was off to bed for me. But yeah, man. Gets me all pumped up. Dandy Don Meredith. He was a cowboy, though, and I am a conscientious objector to the Dallas Cowboys and always will be. And I know you are, too, as a Washington what the hell's your football team called now?
We're still just the Washington football team, I think.
Here's my idea.
I think it's going to be soon changed to the Washington Warhawk. No, not Warhawks. Warthogs? No, not Warthogs.
Here was my idea.
That would be a cool helmet.
You want to know my idea?
What's that? Was
to leave the Native American figurehead, right? But to hang a joint out of his mouth. And because he's got the Chiefs headdress on, then you change the name to the Washington Joint Chiefs.
I see what you did there. I love it.
Dude, if you're local, you're a fan,
awesome.
Enter that into a contest because that is the most brilliant idea I've had in a good 6-8 weeks. All right. Well, here.
Definitely.
We got new information, dude. On our last episode, Rob, read a previously classified document, a document that initially piqued your interest because it dealt with a character many eye with suspicion because of his apparent role as a quote-unquote gatekeeper over the ensuing decades and his entanglement in both the Garrison investigation and the House Select Committee on Assassinations investigation, and that is Life magazine's Dick Billings. And if what piqued your interest was the timing and circumstances of his quick arrival in Dallas, Texas on November 22nd, following the Kennedy hit. Now, but there was an even more interesting sidebar to this document, if you'll remember correctly, and that was some info on a home movie of the presidential motorcade in Dealey Plaza that was taken that day. And you and I talked about that a lot because, you know, you and I had never heard of this. Was this John Martin connected in any way with the John Martin that shot the other film, right? The one with Walker's bullet hole and mailbox, General Edwin Walker.
Right.
And later, of course, showed Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans, right?
Yep.
Showed him tussling with the anti-Castro Cubans. That infamous incident. Now, this is not, as we noted on the previous show, that already infamous, what I call the John Martin General Walker Oswald film, right? But I'd like to recap for everybody. I'd like to read a little bit from the document that you read from last week, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. The document you read says, on November 4th, 1963, Mrs. Pat Swank of Life magazine, representative, Dallas, Texas, residents, Rawlings, advised that an 8mm color movie of the presidential motorcade taken by Mr. John Martin, Houston Street Annex Post Office, Dallas, Texas, were immediately sent to Life magazine, New York City, in an undeveloped condition to be reviewed. Mrs. Swank said that these films were probably of no new news value since she had not heard from Life magazine, New York, about them, but that they would eventually be returned to Mr. John Martin, Dallas, Texas. Mrs. Swank advised that Mr. Hugh Moffett, assistant managing editor, Life magazine, shouldn't be contacted concerning the location and importance of Martin's film. Mrs. Swank advised that if she learns from Time Life that there was any information of value in Mr. Martin's 8mm color movie film, she will immediately contact the FBI in Dallas. Now, it says on December 10th, 1963, New York FBI office advised as follows: the 8mm color movies taken by John Martin of the presidential motorcade were reviewed December 9th, 1963 at New York by special agents Eugene O'Neill and Robert Lawson. A review of the films revealed no pertinent details which would aid Dallas investigation, and the files will be returned to Mr. Richard Pollard, Time Life Building, New York City, New York. Now, so that's where we stood. Now, Rob, I didn't know this, and I kind of feel like a goofball, but that film is actually on YouTube.
Is it?
Yes. Now, if you would like to, if you want to, man, open another tab and just look it up, John Martin film, it'll pop up. And if you want to maybe view it in another window while I read this other information, what do you think? Because I want you to see it.
I'm looking it up now.
All right. Well, it turns out it is known, Rob, but it's kind of weird. There are more coincidences than just the name between this film and the General Walker Oswald film. Now, the day after that episode uploaded, our friend Michael Swanson hit me up immediately upon hearing the show and told me that there's a lot of info on this other Martin film in the 1994 Richard Trask book, Pictures of the Pain, which I do not own, but has a reputation as a very fine book, very fine collection. And another friend of ours, Mr. Ted Rubenstein, he actually sent me the chapter of the book, chapter 23, that deals with this John Martin. So, guys, if I may, Rob, I'd like to read some excerpts from the book, the 1994 book, excellent book, which I have ordered, by the way, by Richard Trask, the book Pictures of the Pain. So I'm going to read a little bit of that, Rob, about this guy. First coincidence,
all
right away. John Martin Jr. was a 58-year-old native of Minnesota. That ring any bells?
Yep.
Yeah, man. Who else was from Minnesota? The other John Martin, the one that went on vacation and went and visited General Walker and went to New Orleans and videotaped Lee Oswald. He was from Minnesota as well. But it says here, John Martin Jr. was a 58-year-old native of Minnesota who worked as a superintendent of safety at the Post Office Terminal Annex at 207th South Houston Street. At about 12:10, Martin left his fifth-floor office and walked the short distance to the west side of Houston Street, a few feet north of Main Street. Martin began filming as the presidential limousine turned north on Houston Street. As the limousine passed his position, Martin then scurried up Houston to the north end of the reflecting pool, adjacent to Elm Street and opposite the front entry to the Texas School Book Depository building. Martin took a fleeting view of the car going in front of the depository on Elm, and after he had stopped filming, he heard a report. As he related in a 1979 interview, and the shot came over my head, I looked around to see who was throwing a firecracker. Then a few seconds later, there were two more shots. One shot, then a space of time, then two more rapidly. That doesn't sound like a bolt-action rifle, Rob.
No, it does not.
Or it doesn't sound like one bolt-action rifle. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. People have always said, that not all the witnesses, but a lot of them do say it was like boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Where the last two are spaced really closely together. And, who knows? I mean, it might have been an echo for, or it could have been, another shot that quickly. But
yeah, every eyewitness description you read or hear, like in an interview, my sense is that those two shots are way too fast to be a bolt action rifle. Way too fast. Mr. Trask continues. He says, then a few seconds later, there were two more. A couple, this is Martin again, a couple came running up near me and said, duck, because they're shooting at us. Martin resumed his filming in time to take movies of the motorcade cameras traveling down toward the underpass. Martin, like scores of others, ran toward the knoll area. Martin, in the words of his FBI report, quote, thinking that perhaps the person who fired the shots had left the building and was being pursued by the police. He related to researcher Hawkins, I ran over there and then asked a man I found later was a Treasury Department man. I said, why are they all running up here? He says, it seems like someone was chasing someone up here. When I saw him, he was right on top of the hill behind the gang that was running up there. Treasury Department man, Secret Service. So again, Martin is another witness encountering someone who says there's Secret Service up there. Or that's
well,
the
isn't
sense
that
of it
interesting?
I get. Yeah, that's the sense of it I get. The Secret Service and Treasury
that's
Department.
What it sounds like.
Thing.
Was it Gene Hill that said the same thing?
Yep.
And didn't one of the Dallas cops say that too? One of the first ones to run over there.
Yeah, the guy pulled a badge on him or ID.
A Secret Service agent. Yeah.
Several witnesses. I know we probably got a lot of listeners that know those witnesses by heart. And they're screaming at their device right now. You dummies.
There's a lot of names in this soup bowl in my head, so pardon moi for not being able to pull them all out like a switchblade when needed. But
boom, like a switchblade.
I'm pretty sure one was Gene Hill and the cop. I forget it. Officer Joe Smith.
Joe Smith.
Yes. Damn.
Damn, I'm good, he said. In 1979, Martin recalled seeing a black and white checker cab traveling south on Houston Street. He was not very far from me when a man got in the taxi cab. I took the picture, but that's the part that doesn't come out. He had a kind of black sweater on. I remember that. And his hairdo. I especially remember how he combed his hair. What I saw was kind of bushy and combed up high. He turned around and looked at me rather intently, wondering what I was doing, and I was taking the pictures. Martin described the man as a white male in his early 20s, bareheaded and wearing a dark shirt with which appeared to have vertical broken stripes. Martin said the thought raced through his mind that wouldn't it be funny if he were the assassin? From pictures he saw subsequently in the newspaper and on television, Martin believed that this man was Lee Harvey Oswald. And again, this is from Richard Trask's excellent book, Pictures of the Pain. Continuing on, Rob, while in the plaza area, Martin had spoken with a number of people, and this is probably how one of the local stringer representatives of Life magazine, who had quickly begun to canvass for potential photographers to use in their pictorial magazine, heard of Martin's film. He agreed to turn over his film, Rob, to that lady. It was Patsy Swank in that document that you read, who in turn gave it to Billings, who arrived in Dallas late Friday afternoon, it says, and set up operations at the Adolphus Hotel. The undeveloped film was then sent to New York City, and although Life magazine found out about it and had acquired the Martin film, no law enforcement agency was aware of its existence. It remained the case until the first week of December, when Martin was discussing the events with Harry D. Holmes. Now, wasn't he an FBI informant?
He was. And I'm sure a Dallas police informant as well.
Oh yeah. Well, he mentioned it to Holmes.
Intelligence Division.
And yeah, that's right. The Post Office Intelligence Division. Holmes was a postal inspector, it says, who had watched the assassination and chaotic aftermath from the bird's eye view of a window in his office overlooking Dealey Plaza. Then on December 3rd, Martin was contacted by the FBI. How do you think the FBI heard about the Martin film, Rob? Probably from Mr. Holmes. Well,
that too.
According to Mr. Trask's book here, Billings got it and sent it to New York City to Life magazine for development. And it says, he writes here, although Life magazine found out about it and had acquired the Martin film, no law enforcement agency was aware of its existence. It remained the case until Martin discussed the events with Harry Holmes, and then on December 3rd, the FBI contacted him. So, informant, Harry Holmes, hey, did you guys know there was another film out there? Yeah, that dude was, I don't know, man. He's shady, Harry Holmes. Shady as hell.
Well, I think the John Martin Jr. guy, the 58-year-old guy, worked at the post office, right?
Yeah, he was a safety inspector. Right.
Yeah, so he probably ran his mouth and told Harry Holmes, hey, heard you interviewed Oswald, and guess what? I took a movie of it, and they sent it to Life magazine. And so I'm sure it didn't take long for old Harry Holmes to run off with that info.
Oh, no. Quick, to his handlers, to his FBI guys.
Right.
Says here, the full Martin film sequence remained one of the most obscure films, the most obscure of the films taken that day. In 1967, Richard Sprague had a long conversation on the phone with Martin about his film and subsequently was able to view it in its entirety. Now, Martin claims that what he got back was not, was not what he sent, that it had been edited.
Right.
And it's pretty interesting to watch because the car makes the turn and heads toward the kill zone, and then there's a cut. And then it picks back up after the shooting.
Yeah, the Newmans are on the ground. The cop starts running towards the hill. Yep. I took a second to view it while you were talking.
Yeah.
And I have seen it before. I just didn't know what it was. It's not really great quality. Maybe that's just deteriorated over the years or whatever. But you can see where stills have been made from this movie that we think are photographs. Or he was in the same position as when some of the photographs were taken that day. But I mean, it's a good movie, but like you said, where the meat of it, like right at the depository, it's cut. It cuts, and then all of a sudden it starts up again. You see the Newmans laying on the grassy knoll already. The follow-up cars were going by. The people start running for the hill. So you're probably talking at least a good 5-10 seconds was cut from that film.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. and he Martin certainly thought it had been edited. And I do not doubt it. I do not doubt it a bit. But, so there we go. The John Martin film. I hope to have more on that other Martin film, Rob, to present on the Dallas action later this year.
Cool. Let me add to your story about the Martin film.
Yes, sir. The Dallas one, right?
In the wake of our last episode dropping, and much fanfare to do about this document and all of that, and I did make some conjectures on the show that it was possibly the same people. I mean, they're the same people with the same name.
And they're both from Minnesota.
Yeah, from the same state. And, if this guy in Dallas, the lone noters are like, no, that's not the same guy. This guy was older. He worked in Dallas. And
hey, whoa, hold up. Back the wrong podcast. We still have lone nutters that listen to us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shout out to all the lone nutters. But I think they only listen so they can crucify us on the finer details of things. But it's all good.
I don't ever hear anything out of them. Bless their hearts.
Oh, yeah. My nuts are still roasting on the grill. So let me pull them off for a second and make a simple retort. Okay,
Wait.
I understand now that it's probably not the same John Martin. I get that. But it's an awful big coincidence that these guys have the same name.
Right.
And Junior is a 58-year-old man. Okay? From Minnesota. So why would a younger, fresh out of the Army guy named John Martin be going to Dallas? Maybe he went there because he was visiting his dad, and not just at the behest of his former General Edwin Walker.
That's very interesting.
But maybe he made it a 2-for-1 stop. Was, hey, since I'm going to visit my dad, I'll drop in on the good general and have a chat with him, and see what's happening. And it's just one of those beautiful can't say the word.
Liberty Lobby.
What am I trying to say?
Synchronicity
moments.
Synchronicitous? Is that a word?
I feel like there's a plural.
Syncratic?
That's what I was trying to say.
I think I know what you're trying to say, man. I think I'm
okay.
I am smelling what you're stepping in, homie.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody else does too.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those beautiful synchronicitous moments, with the JFK assassinations, where you have, it just happens to be that the son took this famous film of Oswald and General Walker and the fracas in New Orleans, right? And that his father happens to
well, wait a minute. Is that
on video. Huh?
Have we established any sort of link between the two?
No, but I mean, if 58-year-old John Martin Jr., okay, his dad is John Martin Sr. If he had a kid, he would probably name him what?
Maybe John Martin III.
John Martin III.
Yeah.
But maybe John Martin III doesn't always drag around that part of his name as John Martin III, right?
Right.
So, it falls, okay, say this guy was around 30 years old when he had his kid, or 33, 34 when he had this kid, it just kind of works out to where, the younger John Martin III, allegedly, would have been the right age to have gotten out of high school, served in the Army for 4 or 6 years, and then got out. And, I'm just saying it's possible.
It's possible.
And it would be awfully sanctimonious if the father caught the assassination on film and the son captured the alleged assassin in New Orleans, and also, footage of General Walker's house that Oswald allegedly shot.
Hey, can I interject
it would
something?
be crazy. Sure.
Can I interject something? Rob, hello?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is just wild and woolly speculation. We have no proof of this. We're just speculating for the hell of it. Thank you. This has been a public service announcement on Quick Hits. Okay, go ahead.
So that was just my personal disclaimer. We realized it wasn't the exact same John Martin, but I'm saying, what if they were father and son?
What if they were cousins?
They could be related. They're from the same state with the same name, not only the same surname, but the same first name. And we know there was a John Martin Jr., so why not a John Martin III? If normally, look at Hank.
That's right.
You got Hank Williams Jr., Hank Williams III,
and you got
Hank
Sheldon.
Williams IV. Yes,
Sheldon.
So hey, Doug, I have a small.
No, I know him. I know him, Hank III. Yeah, I'm in Nashville, baby. Yeah.
Cool,
matter of fact, I know a drummer that used to be in what was the name of that fucking band? They played with him for a while. Jars of Clay, maybe? I don't know. Can't remember. But I know a drummer that played with him for a while. It was crazy. They would do he would do 2 sets. He would do one set like doing Hank Williams music, and then there would be an intermission. They'd come out and do death metal for an hour. It was fucking crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we have no way of knowing that these people are related, at all. We're just speculating. Rob's just saying, damn, what a coincidence. You got this guy that films The Assassination, named John Martin, from Minnesota. And over here, you got this guy, John Martin, young guy named John Martin, from Minnesota, who flew to Dallas in late July of 1963, filmed General Edwin Walker's bullet hole that they say Lee Oswald put there. Bullshit. Right. Walker's mailbox. Then it cuts to Lee Oswald passing out Fair Play for Cuba Committee leaflets and fighting in the street with anti-Castro exiles. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a hell of a coincidence. A hell of a coincidence. And more to come on that other one, Rob, on a future episode of the Dallas Action.
I'll be waiting intently.
Absolutely.
All right, now I got a treat.
Well, I love surprises. Lay it on me.
All right, here we go. And we got a special question concerning the Martin film from one of our A-plus listeners, Doug.
Hey,
Miss Caroline Chason. Yes.
Miss Caroline Chason. Awesome, dude. Awesome. But before we do that, can I just say something to the lone nutters that bother you?
Yes. Go ahead.
Shut the fuck up!
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Pray continue, sir.
That was very succinct. I love it. Yeah.
Yes, a question from Caroline Chason, one of the Quick Hits honor. She may be the first member of the Quick Hits honor roll, I think, because she was sending us clear, concise, articulate questions from the get-go.
Yeah, and you're going to hear one right now straight from her mouth. And I'll apologize for her to begin with. She has a cold and her throat is very jacked up. And she normally has a low, gravelly voice anyway, but you'll be able to understand what she's saying. Here you go.
Okay, cool.
Shit, hold on. Hold on.
Bear with us, folks.
Time out.
It's been a month.
Hold on.
It's been a month since we've done this. We're only human.
Yes. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, take 2. Here we go. Miss Caroline.
I know that.
Shit.
I know that today you'll be talking about the Martin. That interests me very, very much. This guy had to be working for somebody. You can't have all of that on film and not be working for someone. So I was curious who you guys thought or think he might be working for.
All right, did you hear that, Doug?
I did. Who do we think that Martin, the General Walker Oswald film was working for.
Yes.
I think he was there at the behest of General Edwin Walker, taping Lee Oswald, filming Lee Oswald. Think about this. Now, we know about the letter that General Walker sent to the church committee. He said that a couple of days after somebody took a shot at him, a member of the Dallas Police Department that he knew came to his house and sat down with him and said, General, we had the guys that popped you. It was a guy named Lee Oswald, or tried to pop you. A guy named Lee Oswald and a guy named Jack Ruby. And we had him in custody. But the Justice Department, Bobby Kennedy's DOJ, called us and told us to kick them loose. We had the wrong guys. There are indications in the research that give us the idea that Walker, whether or not we believe Oswald was involved, that Walker had reason to believe or was told this, maybe, or knew about, I guess a better way, Rob, to say it is knew about Oswald prior to the assassination. Right. And, 2 degrees of separation. Who spent July 4th and 5th smoking cigars with Walker that year? Gerald Patrick Hemming and members of Interpen.
Yep.
Who did Gerald Patrick Hemming say he met a couple of times, including in California? Lee
Oswald.
Lee Oswald. So, just right there, you've got 2 degrees of separation between the two individuals. But yeah, Caroline, to answer your question, as far as I go, I think that he was tracking or trailing or tailing Oswald, maybe at the behest of Walker.
Yeah, now
possibly, maybe.
Yeah, and I agree with your assessment totally, and I could definitely lean towards the General Walker theory. This guy used to serve under General Walker.
Yep.
He goes to visit him, and Walker thinks, here's a guy who really can't be tied back to me per se without a lot of digging, and I want to find out. I heard that Lee Oswald lives in New Orleans. Here's what I want you to do. You go to New Orleans, you find this guy, ask around, see if you can find him. I want to see him. Get him on film.
Yeah. This guy Oswald.
Yeah.
Now look at it, or it could be, if Oswald was involved in some way in the plot, obviously he might know who of Oswald, because that's who's going to be framed as the patsy.
Yeah.
Surveillance.
These guys could have came up and said, okay, look, this is the perfect guy to set up. I know this guy. I've talked to this guy. He's got the perfect background for this. If he gets caught, he's going to look like a total commie. And he just fits the bill perfectly. He's a dupe. We can dupe him, and this, that, and the other. But the other thing I was thinking of, Doug, when it comes to who might have told John Martin what to be doing. Unless maybe the feds came across some whisperings of a conspiracy brewing between some extreme right wingers, this, that, and the other, and we don't really know what John Martin was doing as a profession at the time. At least I have no idea. If anybody out there knows, just let me know.
I may have an idea. I may have an idea later. I plan on prepping. I ran across some documents pertaining to this John Martin film, the Walker Oswald Martin film.
But if he was in Army intelligence or something, or some type of law enforcement,
okay, I see what you're saying.
Then I could see maybe being approached since, hey man, since you know this cat down there, you served under him, you know that crazy son of a bitch down there, go down, get down there and see what the hell happened, talk to him, take some film, blah, blah, blah. And, then maybe General Walker talked to this guy and directed him to go to New Orleans to find out more about this Lee Oswald character. Who knows? the bottom line, Miss Caroline, is we don't really know for sure, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense that Edwin Walker himself would have had him come down there, or maybe he knew his dad. Who knows?
Bottom line is, the fact that this guy filmed General Edwin Walker's the bullet hole in his house that was put there in April of 63. Okay, in late July and early August of 1963, this guy filmed that mailbox, that bullet hole, and then filmed that man doing that in New Orleans, Oswald. I don't think it's a coincidence, dude. No way. No way that's a coincidence. Either way, but it just, knowing that the guy served under Walker in Europe, in the Army, also leads me to believe that the guy was directed to New Orleans to maybe tail Oswald by Walker. Are you muted, Rob?
Oh, I might be. I was to say, yeah.
Guys, again, it's been a month. Okay, it's been a month.
Maybe once Martin found him, he came across him on the street, and then, all hell breaks loose, and here comes the cops and take him away, and that was really all they could do, because Oswald was in jail for, 2 or 3 days in New Orleans, because nobody bailed him out.
Yeah.
And, maybe he got what he got and figured that was all he was going to get, and then went back and showed Walker what was going on. Who knows? But yeah, it's a very intriguing, sidebar to the assassination, a very intriguing question as to the who, the where, and the why, Miss Caroline. I wish we had a better answer for you, but the bottom line is we just don't know. But
we don't know.
Best
but my sense is that he worked for Walker. And
yes.
if it, as a historical artifact, that establishes, in my mind, a concrete link of some kind between Walker and Oswald. That's why I think it's so blockbuster. It's such a big deal.
For sure.
To me, anyway. I've been shouting it on high ever since I learned about the damn thing. Ever since Gary Mack uploaded it to the Sixth Floor Museum website,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I first saw it.
Yep, it's definitely an important piece that many people overlook and don't see the significance of, for sure. All right, Doug, you ready for what I got?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
All right, so I'm a frequent lurker in many, well, not many, maybe one forum mainly, the Ed forum. And I check it every once in a while. I'm not one of these guys that goes on there every day and is all up in everybody's business. But I do happen to check it once in a while.
That is a fantastic place. There's, it's just another resource of ours that is chock full of great information.
Yes,
let's face it.
Yes.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with some of the kookier shit that people say on there, there's a lot of good information there. Great information. I'm over there quite a bit. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm a big fan of a researcher by the name of Gil Jesus, who's done a lot of work on the rifle in the past and all that. And I saw he had a new article. He posted a new article on the Ed forum called "Sacking the Gun Sack."
Oh, sacking the gun sack.
AKA the bag job. The bag job. Okay? And he makes a lot of very succinct and interesting points in this article that definitely need to be thought out. Okay? So I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then I want to get your thoughts for sure. Okay? Okay. So the Warren Report states on page 134, a handmade bag of wrapping paper and tape was found in the southeast corner of the 6th floor alongside the window from which the shots were fired. Okay, the Warren Commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald had constructed a paper gun sack from materials he obtained from the Texas School Book Depository and used that gun sack to bring his rifle into the building on the morning of November 22nd, 1963, with the intent of assassinating President John F. Kennedy.
And this is the package that he allegedly says contained curtain rods.
Right.
Yeah.
They came to that conclusion in spite of a mountain of evidence to the contrary. The thing that strikes you right off the bat about this piece of evidence is the color. Most of it has been stained with a chemical using silver nitrate, but a small portion of it at the end is not. I would like to focus on this unstained part because the FBI claimed that they developed a left index fingerprint from one end of the bag and the right palm print at the other end of the bag using this chemical treatment. So how did they develop the print at the untreated end of the bag? He says, discovery on the 6th floor. Let me start this fairy tale in the traditional sense. Once upon a time, there was a gun sack nobody saw in a place where it wasn't, but was found by 2 different people. And Commission Document 5, page 128, indicates that the gun sack was found by Detective Studebaker in the southwest corner of the 6th floor while dusting for fingerprints. But on the very next page of the same document, it credits the discovery to Lieutenant J.C. Day, Supervisor Roy Truly as a witness, and states that no one else viewed it. Somebody's not telling the truth here. And if that wasn't enough,
Wow.
A crime scene photograph of the corner where the gun sack was allegedly found shows no gun sack. In fact, the Warrant Commission had to outline where the bag was found in the photo of the shells. So if the Dallas police had the presence of mind to photograph the shells under the window in position as found, why didn't they photograph the bag in the same way, in the position it was found?
Keystone
Following
Cops.
the assassination, James Cadigan, an FBI agent whose expertise was the examination of questionable documents, was asked to examine a brown paper bag that was allegedly found on the 6th floor of the school book depository. This bag would later become CE-142. In addition, he examined the samples of paper and tape that were taken from the mailroom of the depository by Lieutenant Day and Studebaker, in which Lieutenant Day gave to FBI agent Vincent Drain on the night of the assassination. This sample that Day took for comparison would become CE-677. And it might be interesting to note that the paper used by the Texas School Book Depository, Doug, arrived on March the 19th of 1963 from St. Regis Paper Mills of Jacksonville, Florida, and that this shipment of paper was not completely used up until January of 1964. So this whole shipment of this exact same paper from the exact same place came into this depository March 19th, 1963, and wasn't used until the following year. In other words, the paper that was in the building on November 22nd and December 1st were from the same shipment. On December the 1st, the FBI took samples of the paper and tape from the mailroom and compared that example, Exhibit 364, to the paper gun sack and the sample taken on November 22nd. And this is what they found.
All right.
That the paper from the gun sack matched the paper that Day said he got from the TSBD shipping room. However, the FBI sample from the same TSBD shipping room 10 days later did not match either of the two.
Huh.
And it goes through where Dulles is asking, do I understand correctly, though, you have testified that a sample taken 10 days later was different? Yes, approximately 10 days. Yes, this was a sample taken December 1st. I could tell that it was different from this sample taken on the day of the assassination and different from the bag. So, armed with this
but they're
information,
also
the FBI,
saying now, they're also saying that they didn't finish with that role until early 64.
Right.
Right. Or, yeah.
Right. So, ideally, the paper in the mailroom of the school book depository should have matched the sample that they took on November 22nd and December 1st, and it should have matched Oswald's bag.
Right, because they didn't change to the next role until the next year, until early 64. What was it, March, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was still the role in use.
Yeah.
At the time.
So, armed with this information, the FBI started looking for a match for the paper and tape by checking places where Oswald had worked in the past, such as Jagger, Childs, Stovall in Dallas, the William B. Riley Company in New Orleans. They also examined paper and tape that was in the home of Ruth Payne. They even went so far as to obtain paper and tape from Klein Sporting Goods in Chicago, where they alleged Oswald bought the rifle. For all their efforts, they were unable to find paper and tape that matched the paper and tape on the alleged gun sack. In fact, the only paper and tape that matched the paper and tape found on the gun sack, in quotes, was the paper and tape that was in the shipping room of the school book depository on the afternoon of the 22nd of 63. Okay, that is the only paper and tape that matched their so-called sack. Okay?
That's it.
Keep that in mind.
Yep. I'm with you.
Now, taking into account that the crime scene photographs show no bag in the location where police said they found it, and that who found it is questionable, this bag was made by the Dallas police, Gil Jesus alleges, on the afternoon of the assassination in the shipping room of the school book depository. Then they took a sample from the same roll of paper and tape so it matched. Apparently, they didn't have the rifle present when they made the bag, but they did have shotguns. But the bag ended up being 2 inches too short to hold a broken down Mannlicher Carcano.
Right.
And the FBI found this out when they sent agents to make a replica bag on December 1st. They then tested the paper and tape on the replica and found out that it didn't match the bag or the sample taken by the DPD on November 22nd. The bottom line is the Dallas police made this bag to connect this rifle to the building and thus Oswald. What they didn't know was that they were using paper and tape that would connect it to the building and not Oswald on the afternoon of November 22nd, to the exclusion of all others. Right?
Huh.
So basically, what Gil Jesus is saying in a nutshell is that the only paper and tape that matches the alleged bag, gun bag, allegedly found in the school book depository, only was in the depository on November 22nd, 1963. Now, it was also in the depository since March of that year, 1963.
Right. That's when it was. That's when they swapped out, or when it was delivered.
Right. So it's quite possible that Oswald had taken paper from the school book depository home, with tape, and constructed this bag at Ruth Payne's house. Correct? I mean, that's a normal assumption, right?
Right. But what happened to it afterwards? What happened to that roll?
Well, here's the deal. Well, they finally ran out of it.
Right. But
in January. But
in January. But so when the FBI went to get
possibility.
Yeah, but I guess if I'm getting this right, when the FBI in December went and got a sample, it did not match either the Oswald bag, we'll call it, or the paper from the sample of November 22nd.
Correct.
When the FBI got there, it was a completely different batch of paper.
Right.
Been changed out.
Yes, allegedly.
Yes.
So, the tape dispenser at the school book depository, they only had one, and the FBI examined it and the tape. They found that the dispenser left unique marks on the tape as it went through. Because of this, they were able to identify the dispenser from the shipping room of the TSBD as the unit that dispensed the tape on the sack. There's no evidence that Oswald was ever working in the shipping room, and there's no evidence that he took the dispenser home with him to construct the gun sack. So here's more information.
Here's the thing. The tape on the gun sack, did it match that dispenser?
Yes.
So Oswald, if he made the sack at home, he would have to have taken the dispenser home with him.
Correct. If he made it at home. Now, he could have, ideally, snuck over there during the time that Troy West, who was the shipper there at the school book depository, was on break and hastily constructed this paper sack at work. Okay, but I know, Doug, that you've seen the pictures.
Is it going to hold up?
Bag out of the depository.
Is that little paper bag going to hold up overnight?
I don't know. I mean, and it's all big ass paper bag to fit in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. If you fold it up,
I mean,
It'll have
Frazier's gonna
obvious.
be like, hey man, is that a paper bag in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Hey, Lee,
That's a
is that
big
a paper bag in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
That's a big paper bag
Yeah.
to be hiding.
Right. So, when Paul Stoneball of the FBI lab examined the paper bag, he found on the inside a single brown declustered viscous fiber and several light green cotton fibers. The blanket in which the rifle was stored was composed of brown and green cotton, viscous, and woolen fibers. The single brown viscous fiber was found in the bag, matched some of the brown viscous fibers from the blanket in all observable characteristics. The green cotton fibers found in the paper bag matched some of the green cotton fibers in the blanket in all observable microscopic characteristics. Despite these matches, however, Stoneball was unable to determine that the fibers which he found in the bag had come from the blanket because other types of fibers were present in the blanket were not found in the bag. The best he could come up with was, because there's so few fibers in the bag, was that they could have come from the blanket, or they could have been placed there. And then he gets into the fingerprint and palm print found on the bag.
Yeah.
So no other identifiable prints were found on the bag. The FBI examined the gun sack to determine if it had carried the rifle. The examination was on the inside of the sack to see if there were marks or scratches in the paper caused by the rifle. The FBI expert on the subject was James Cadigan, who stated, I was also required at the time to examine the bag to determine if there were any significant markings or scratches or abrasions or anything by which it could be associated with the rifle. Commission Exhibit 139, that is, could I find any markings that I could tie to that rifle? Yes. And Cadigan says, I could not find any such markings inside the bag. Cadigan added, there were no marks on this bag, but I could say were caused by that rifle or any other rifle or any other given instrument. Cadigan found no evidence that the gun sack had contained the rifle, and while he testified that the absence of scratches was not proof that the rifle was never in the bag, he added the caveat that the rifle could have been wrapped in cloth, which it certainly wasn't. So the rifle that was so sharp that it could pull fibers off a blanket, and so sharp that it could pull fibers off of a shirt that was in Oswald's dresser drawer at the time of the shooting, couldn't leave a scratch in paper. The rifle left no impression of itself, not a little hole, not even the tiniest little scratch on the bag. And since the rifle wasn't wrapped in anything, Cadigan's opinion simply stated was that this bag never contained a rifle. This is an FBI expert.
This bag never contained a rifle, that's what the guy said?
Yeah. So in his conclusions, he says, I believe there's a lot of evidence here that points to this, quote, gun sack as having been constructed on the afternoon of the assassination by the Dallas police. First, crime scene photographs prove that it wasn't where they said they found it. Second, 2 different officers said they found it. One claimed to have a witness and stated no one else saw it. Third, the type of prints taken from it are proof that Oswald never carried it. Fourth, there were not enough fibers to say they came from the blanket in the Payne garage. Fifth, there was no evidence that the rifle was ever inside the bag.
But the FBI expert, the FBI's own expert, said that in his opinion, that bag never contained a rifle.
That's correct.
Well, shit, dude. That goes back to the FBI expert that testified about the ballistics to CE-399, the magic bullet. It's the same thing.
Right.
He got up in front of the House Select Committee on Assassinations after test firing everything and says, I can't, what did he say? He cannot tie that bullet to the Mannlicher Carcano rifle to the exclusion of all other barrels. The FBI ballistics expert. And it's right there in black and white, folks. What have I always said about that? If Lee Oswald lives to go to trial, that's bombshell evidence. And now that the FBI's own expert says, well, this never contained a rifle.
Right.
What does that do to their case if he lives past the 24th?
Now, Doug, I want you to imagine you're constructing this rifle-carrying paper bag.
Okay.
I want you to imagine yourself doing that folding it around, taping it here, maybe folding it again, flipping it over, taping it here. Are you constructing the bag, right?
You know, when you think about
would you think your fingerprints would be all over that motherfucker?
All over it. And you know another thing.
Yeah.
When you think about this practically, when you think about this whole thing in a real world kind of way, a practical, all right, I'm doing this right now, okay? There's no way in hell people aren't going to know that's a rifle in that bag.
Right.
Because the paper's going to, it's going to crinkle. It's going to crumple.
I mean, the bag that they pulled out in the photo, when you see him walking out of the TSBD with the rifle, with the bag.
Dude, it looks like it's been it looks like it's been pressed with a flat iron.
Yeah, and it's gigantic.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And man,
and like I said, if you're constructing out of a paper bag using cellophane tape or a cellophane base tape, your fingerprints are going to be all over that bag, all over it.
All over it.
I mean, there'd be no way that you could get away with. So his 6th point is it was impossible for anyone, Oswald or anyone else, to have made this bag without leaving fingerprints unless you're smart enough or you know better to actually wear gloves while you do it. And who would know that better than members of a police department? Correct?
Not yet. See, that's the thing. So you're going to tell me that Oswald put on gloves when he made the paper bag, but he didn't put them on when he carried it around, carried the rifle, when he fired the rifle. He didn't worry then. He didn't worry about it. He didn't worry about his fingerprints on the rifle, but he couldn't leave them on the bag. That would be incriminating.
Right.
Yeah.
And his 7th and final point is the paper and tape used to construct the bag matched the paper and tape that was in the shipping room table on the afternoon of November 22nd to the exclusion of all others found or examined.
Either in December or in March or in January. You said they ran out and changed in January, right? Allegedly. Yeah.
Right.
So it had to have been made that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very good article by Gil Jesus.
Yeah,
and of course we have some good comments by some of the members of the forum.
It's very illuminating. I learned some things. Mr. Jesus, if you're listening, thank you very much. Very illuminating article.
Yeah, the first point made by a commenter mentions that the Carcano has to be broken down into 9 distinct parts with several screws and one tiny mistake in the bag construction, and a screw goes missing out of one of the corners or there's a hole in the bag, there's suddenly no assassination by a lone nut. And Frazier never mentions any clinking metal as LHO removes the bag from the back of the car, and in fact, Frazier and his sister never saw a bag like this one shown to them, despite the immense pressure of the police and Warren Commission prosecutors. So something we also need to keep in mind.
And this goes back to the lone nutters we talked about earlier, which, I've said before, I don't give a fuck what they say, what they think. Don't give a damn what a lone nutter thinks. But, if those that cling to the official story, that he got there and put this rifle together with all these little screws and shit with a dime and it fired perfectly, they don't know shit about rifles.
Yeah, I know. That's another very good point, Doug.
Yeah, there's no way.
Like I said, Oswald could have, taken some paper home with him, from the depository and hid it from Buell Frazier. But as one of the very succinct commenters stated, there's no way he could have snuck a tape Frazier allegedly about the so-called curtain rods that he had to get, bring back for his little apartment. So it really wouldn't have been a big deal if he had a bag or not, because he could have said, well, I'm just going to put the rods in this bag I made here at work. But that didn't happen either. So,
well, that's a hell of an interesting article by Mr. Jesus for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for sharing that. You need to now. That guy's been on the Lone Gunman years ago, right?
No, I've never had him.
Oh, I thought he had. Who am I thinking of that you did? I know I'm thinking of Richard Gilbride. That's who I'm thinking of. Didn't you have him on?
I did have Richard Gilbride on. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Rob, we have some. Huh?
I was just going to tell everybody, check out Gil Jesus's work. Highly recommended, well researched, and very well thought out with logic. Not too much speculation. So, enjoyed the article. Enjoyed his past stuff. And check him out.
When I think of Gil Jesus, I think thorough.
Yeah.
For sure. Very detail-oriented research. Way to go, Mr. Jesus. Good points. Very good points in that article. 100%. Rob, sadly, we must report the passing of yet another person entangled in the web of the Kennedy assassination, my good man.
Allow us to report.
Allow us to report. There you go. Priscilla Johnson McMillan, author of the 1977 book Marina and Lee, passed away after a fall at her home on July 7th, Rob. She was 93 years old. And entangled is an understatement when you say entangled in the narrative of the assassination. A little bit of background here on Johnson. She graduated from college in 1952, but in 1953 landed a job working for then Senator John Kennedy. She has the distinction of being the only person to personally meet both Lee Oswald and John Kennedy. 1957, she moved to the Soviet Union. She was a translator for the U.S. Embassy for a short time. She returned, of course, in November of 1959 as a reporter for the North American News Alliance and interviewed a young defector named Lee Oswald. The very next day, she was in the same hotel as this guy, alerted to Oswald and his defection and his presence by John McVicker from the United States Embassy there. And, of course, we're all familiar with her infamous story published on Oswald in the Washington Evening Star after she interviewed him. Now, after the Kennedy assassination, of course, Rob, in July of 1964, she moved to Dallas and glommed onto Marina Oswald and had a book contract by 1966. Of course, it didn't appear until 1977. Now, Rob, 3 days after her death on July 10th of this year, researcher and historian John Simpkin of Spartacus and the Education Forum posted an article on the Education Forum that gives us a lot of detail regarding Priscilla Johnson McMillan's connections and entanglement with the CIA. My good man, over the years. Would you like to hear a little bit of that? Of course, this didn't come out till, declassified documentation till years and years and years later, but there are a few interesting points. Rob, did you know, my good man?
Why, certainly.
That she actually applied to join the CIA in 1952?
She might as well have had I'm a CIA salute tramp stamp tattooed above her ass.
But she was rejected, says here. Now, this is, I'm going to read.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Thank you very much. But this is from, I'm reading directly from Mr. Simpkins' article that he published on the 10th. 3 days after. Or wait a minute. Now, let me get this right. Yeah, she passed away on the 7th. He published this article at the Education Forum 3 days later. Says she was rejected by the CIA because some of her associates would require more investigation. The document was signed by Cord Meyer, chief of CIA investigations and operational support, who, of course, would later be fingered as having organized the assassination by E. Howard Hunt, the Watergate burglar.
As his wife was by JFK.
Allegedly. There we go.
Allegedly.
Cord Meyer, yes. The husband. There we go with that word again. Allegedly. Cord Meyer, the husband of Mary Meyer, who was the center point of that book, Mary's Monkey Mosaic. Is that right? Dr. Mary's Monkey Mosaic.
Maybe they saw some monkeys while they were
Dr.
tripping
Mary's
out on acid.
Monkey Mosaic. That was that book, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
It says here that on 23rd March of, what years are we at here? Oh, okay, so on 17th March 1953, W.A. Osborne of the CIA sent a memo to Sheffield Edwards, head of CIA security, that after checking out Johnson's associates, he recommended approval. Hire her. However, on the 23rd, he sent another memo saying that in light of her activities in the United World Federalists, he now recommended that she be disapproved. However, the CIA continued to take an interest in Johnson. Now, this is interesting, Rob. In a CIA document dated 23rd August 1957, it stated that during the Second World War, McMillan was utilized, quote, utilized by the Office of Special Operations in 1943 and 1944. But she would only have been 15 at the time. Mr. Simpkin writes this, so this is clearly inaccurate. John Newman has speculated that with that particular document, that Johnson was being given a cover story of someone who had, quote, a good security record. Nonetheless, by 58, she traveled to Cairo. The following month, she was in Paris. And according to her own testimony, she worked for, quote, someone I knew, either for Radio Liberty or the Congress for Cultural Freedom. So she didn't know who she worked for. While in France, she applied to the USSR consulate to go to the Soviet Union on May 6, 1958. The chief of counterintelligence submitted a request for operational approval on Johnson. The operation for which she was being considered is still classified. More CIA connections for Miss Johnson. On the 11th December 1962, Mr. Simpkin writes, a CIA memo written by Donald Jameson, declassified in August of 93, reported, quote, I think that Miss Johnson can be encouraged to write pretty much the articles we want. It will require a little more contact and discussion, but I think she could come around. It would be important to avoid making her think that she was being used as a propaganda tool and expected to write what she is told. Basically, if approached with sympathy in the cause she considers most vital, I believe she would be interested in helping us in many ways. Now, after the assassination, Johnson wrote an article for the Boston Globe where she described Lee Harvey Oswald as a classic example of a, quote, embittered psychological loner. She added, I soon came to feel that this boy was the stuff of which fanatics are made. Now, that's some pretty easy shit to write after the fact. You know?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That's some Operation Mockingbird shit. There she's doing exactly what on 11th December of 1962, Donald Jameson reported in his memo. She can be encouraged to write pretty much the articles we want. And I guarantee you that's what that was, dude. Guarantee it. Another CIA document dated the 5th of February 64 reports on a meeting with Johnson. The main objective was to debrief Johnson on her flaps with the Soviets when she was in the USSR, notably at the time of her last exit. Says here that Priscilla Johnson's Wikipedia article points out that she married George McMillan in 65, described as a freelance writer. He wrote a book called The Making of an Assassin, a book that claims that James Earl Ray worked alone in the killing of Dr. Martin Luther King. So, another Mockingbird agent and another witness, Rob, who was there, passes away, doesn't tell what she really knows.
Of course.
So, wanted to pass that along, guys. Whenever notable witnesses, whenever we lose them,
interesting.
We try to bring you guys up to speed there. And want to thank Mr. John Simpkin for the awesome information in his post on the Education Forum of July 10th that we read from there on Priscilla Johnson McMillan. Now, do you have another one, Rob, or are we ready for the shenanigans?
I do.
Okay, go. All right. Cool. Throw it. Lay it on me, dude.
All right. You know, me being a JFK assassination podcaster and you being a JFK assassination podcaster, we're generally don't listen to any other JFK related shows unless for some reason it might behoove or interests us to do so. Am I correct in that assessment?
That is correct. Full disclosure, I do check in and see what Leno Stanek is doing at Black Op Radio every week. Again, full disclosure, it's like any other podcast. Every episode's not going to be something that I'm going to want to listen to. And that goes for sports podcasts, music podcasts, comedy podcasts. One of my favorites, for example,
the podcasts I listen to have nothing to do with the JFK assassination.
But now, honestly, the ones I listen to the most are the Lone Gunman Podcast, the Lone Gunman Podcast, and the Lone Gunman Podcast.
Well, yeah, I never miss an episode of the Dallas Action or the Dallas Action or the Dallas Action or Quick Hits.
You're right.
Quick Hits.
Why would we?
Exactly.
I mean, it's literally the pinnacle. The pinnacle.
It came to my attention that there's actually, Doug, 3 other podcasts about the JFK assassination that have come out in the past year. And apparently I've been in a bubble. Quite unaware.
I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Well, also you gotta
so
for me to keep up with writing the Dallas Action, right? It generally takes between 15 and 20 pages. And I'm lucky if, while I'm researching stuff, if I can get 3 usable pages a week. So, and I am guilty of this, Rob, that it's the podcasting about active research or actively researching and podcasting about it takes up all of my research time now. Whatever I do research-wise, it's usually in one way or another geared toward one of the podcasts. So, and when I'm in the car, man, I'm listening to music or, a comedy podcast usually or news. I am totally unaware.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I mean, not trying to be a dick about it, but, it's not like, fuck those guys or nothing like that. Don't get me wrong. It's just that there are only so many hours in a day, and I want to listen to Rachel Maddow every morning. So there you go.
So there has been 44 episodes in the past 5 months of a podcast entitled JFK, The Enduring Secret. And it calls itself an in-depth tutorial and discussion around the assassination of JFK.
What's that called?
The country's 35th president who was brutally murdered in Dallas. It's called JFK, The Enduring Secret. And the first episode starts with the 1960 election and the course it's set for later events in the assassination story. And it almost goes through chronologically notorious events of the assassination. Okay. Like it goes through this 1960 election and then it goes into the Warren Commission narrative. A couple episodes on that. It goes into an episode about Buell Frazier, Roger Craig. There's a Zapruder film. There's 6 parts on that. Shooters and shots. It analyzes different theories, and stuff like that. And it's not bad. The episodes are short. Most of them are somewhere around 20 to 30 minutes long. There are occasionally some longer ones, and it does go through, and it talks about the grassy knoll, 8 parts of that, the Babushka lady, the Badge Man, Gordon Arnold, Julia Mercer. So it goes through a lot of this stuff.
So you would recommend checking it out?
I would recommend checking it out if you're new to the case and you really want to learn more in a chronological fashion, I guess you could say, without jumping all over the spectrum. I would say definitely hop on it and check it out.
There you go, man.
Just don't leave us high and dry.
Oh man, what are they gonna?
It might be a good listen. I guarantee you one thing: ain't no other show out there as entertaining as this one right here.
No, absolutely not.
You will be back, but it's called JFK: The Enduring Secret.
JFK: The Enduring Secret, guys. Check that one out. Rob recommends it.
Yeah.
If Rob recommends it, you know it's going to be damn good. Absolutely.
Now the other one is, there's another one. It's called Awakened Reality Podcast: The JFK Assassination. Okay, and there are currently 33 episodes in. in 7 months, so they're cranking them out as well. This one kind of just goes over the bigger theories, like JFK in the Vietnam War.
More of an
JFK
overview.
in the Federal Reserve. Yeah, more of an overview type thing. It doesn't. I mean, it goes into depth on certain things like JFK and the Bay of Pigs, JFK and the CIA. The life of Oswald. There's an episode on General Walker, and so on and so forth. But it gets into things like the death of Marilyn Monroe, Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah, see the Marilyn Monroe
Living on
thing.
J. Edgar Hoover.
I'm not so hip on that. That whole Marilyn Monroe thing. I'm not. I'd rather dig through documents. That's me.
Now, the last one, I've saved the best for last, because this is, it's called Conspiracy JFK. Now, this guy, whoever this guy is, I don't know who he is, thinks that he has everything figured out. And ultimately, JFK's death. Well, you know what, Doug? Let me just play you this minute-long trailer. How about that?
A minute-long trailer? Absolutely, dude. What a treat. You got more than one surprise for me this evening.
That's right. All right, fasten your safety belt, sir.
All right. I'm
go.
ready to go. Ooh, spooky. Mulder and Scully didn't want any of that? What?
That's right.
On November 22nd, 1963, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy is assassinated. The official narrative states that Lee Harvey Oswald was the shooter and that he acted alone. But here's the thing. Witness testimonies, the Lapruder film, an investigation by the Warren Commission would spark more questions than answers.
Easy for him to say.
Many to question whether Oswald really was the culprit. But if it wasn't Oswald, then who was it and why? What if I were to tell you, I know who killed Kennedy. And I know why. And it involves UFOs. On May 13th, you'll be able to hear the first 2 episodes of Conspiracy. Season 1, JFK. What will you believe?
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that Lapruder film, that's a hell of a piece of evidence right there. That Lapruder film.
Right? He tries to tie in James Forrestal into all of this, as Kennedy was friends with him, going back to the 40s and time he was a senator, and Forrestal was, I believe he was the head of the Navy, and he died under mysterious circumstances, and Eisenhower threatened to invade Area 51 and all this other stuff. So if you are on the crazier side of the JFK assassination theories, and you would like to do the deep dive and Majestic 12 and Project Blue Book and MK Ultra and all other kinds of stuff.
In other words, if you need a break from serious research, guys.
Yeah. Feel free to check out Conspiracy JFK, and you can find out who was behind the assassination and why, according to whoever this guy is.
Well, bless his heart.
Yeah. So I just thought you would enjoy to know that, Doug, we're not alone out there.
We are not alone.
We are not alone, even though I thought we were.
Now,
apparently we're not.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think these guys, these other 3 podcasters, do you think that they transcribe their podcasts?
They're definitely reading.
Okay,
for sure.
But you think they transcribe them? No, I mean so somebody else can go get a transcript and read it rather than listen. Do you think they go through all that trouble?
No.
Now,
No.
you know why I bring that up, Rob?
I do.
It's because
it's funny.
It's because I got trolled on Facebook by an obscure researcher very recently. You want to hear about it?
Oh, pray tell.
You know what? It's time for Facebook Shenanigans.
There you go.
That's right, guys. It's that time again when Rob and I, well, we just tell you about some silly shit somebody said on social media. Welcome to Facebook Shenanigans. Now, Mr. Rob.
Yes, sir.
Have you, my good man, ever heard of a researcher named William Kelly?
I have.
Okay.
And
I forgot.
I've been within 2 to 5 feet of him.
Oh, so he was at the big thing then.
Yeah, he was part of the whole bunch of jokers that figured it'd be a good idea to invite Oliver Stone to speak at the Lancer conference, or the November in Dallas conference, and whom I proceeded to land online and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Mr. Kelly.
All right. Well. Oh, and the title of this segment. If you don't know
who I am, I was the guy wearing that black T-shirt with a purple picture of Oswald on the back of it at the conference in 2019.
that was Rob. Purple Oswald guy.
Yeah. Big, handsome guy, beard, bald head. That's me.
Yeah, man. Wearing the most badass turquoise flip-flops you ever saw in your life.
Hey, better than sweatpants and Velcro shoes.
It is most definitely better than that, for sure. Rob, I called this segment, William Kelly Offers a Completely Unsolicited Opinion. Here's what happened. Okay. Now, back on June 25th, I uploaded the latest episode of The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, which is my podcast. Now, it was episode number 184, titled look at that redneck mouth again, Rob. I did it. Most likely to go rogue. The CIA commandos shut down by the Kennedys. Now, as I generally do, I posted the episode banner art and the episode link all over the web, right? I do it anywhere I can, including a bunch of JFK assassination research groups on Facebook, right? I post it, some weeks Facebook will let me post it in, more places than other weeks. Sometimes it's 15, sometimes it's 30. It just depends on what Facebook is allowing me to post that week, and I won't get into all that bullshit, but whoops, dropped my notebook. Well, I put it up, right, Rob? You've seen it. You've seen the banner art and the link and a little description, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, this William Kelly posted a question in the comments section on one of the posts in a group. And an exchange ensued.
Oh, Lordy.
Here's his question. You ready? William Kelly asks me, where is it written so we can read it?
What, the podcast?
The podcast. So I commented, being very nice. Now, I've got the peace, the 2 fingers up emoji on it, even. The peace emoji, right?
Yes.
I commented, William Kelly, it's a podcast, Mr. Kelly. Click the link, pour a cup of coffee, kick back, listen, and enjoy. Peace emoji. How was that?
Very non-threatening, very explanatory.
William Kelly responds, if you can't quote it, source it, and only watch it, it's entertainment, but it's not research. All serious podcasts and video presentations are transcribed and posted or published. If you can't quote it, source it, and only watch it, it's entertainment, but it's not research. Rob, what do you think about that?
Maybe he's deaf.
Maybe. Well, my response was, damn, and to think for 7 years, hundreds of hours of content, hundreds and hundreds more on research, preparation over 184 episodes, I was under the false impression that I was quote-unquote serious. Thank God Bill Kelly is here to police seriousness in research. Now he responds, I'm not policing anything. You say in the beginning it was written. Now, it is. It's written in notebooks, longhand, a page at a time. And I want to read what is written that can be referenced, not listen to talking heads. Now, what do you think about that, Rob?
Well, that's his personal preference. And if he wants to miss out on it, then okay.
Well, but
you know,
this thing about if he can't read it, it's not serious research.
Look, there's a big pile of these guys out there who think that if you can't cite your source for this, that, and the other, they want to know every little detail about what you're saying and where you heard it. And, you know, they're not interested in anything other than busting your balls about this, that, and the other and doing a little work for themselves. You know, if we're talking an aspect of the assassination that interests you, we're doing it so to spark you to do further research. And there's plenty of our listeners out there who do their due diligence. I get stuff all the time emailed to me about various episodes. Hey, you know, I heard this on your show and I'm checking it out. Look what I found. You know, and
this
that's
is
fine.
It's organic
he's an old
research,
curmudgeon, dude.
Right? It's organic. Look what happened with the Martin film. You know, two different people, Swanson and Mike Swanson and Ted Rubenstein. You know, hey, here's a bunch of information on it. You know, it's ongoing research is what we do, right?
Yes.
And just because he can't read it doesn't take away from the validity. I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly. Here's my response to his last comment where he says, I want to read what is written that can be referenced and not listen to talking heads. I responded, I'll tell you what you do. Contact the following people: Larry Hancock, Doug Horn, Walt Brown, Bill Simpich, David Boylan, Bart Kemp, Ted Rubenstein, Alan Dale, Rob Clark, Dr. Jeffrey Caulfield, Gail Nix Jackson, who graciously asked me to contribute a chapter to her last book, Pieces of the Puzzle, an anthology, which she did, in fact, find serious enough to actually include in the book. Where are you in a book, Mr. Kelly? Casey Quinlan, ask them, is Doug Campbell serious? Is the Dallas Action Podcast serious research? I already know what they're going to tell you. They are members of a very exclusive club, the Return Guests to the Podcast Club, because of the seriousness and thoroughness of the work and research put into it. And then I told him, you know, there are two requirements to be in the club. You got to be cool, and you got to know you got to know your shit. And he's proven that he'll never get an invite now. Well, this is how he responded to that. He says, but it's not transcribed, so it can be posted and referenced. That's all I ask. It costs very little to have it transcribed by computer. But your
now that's bullshit.
It's bullshit. Well,
because I can tell you right now.
Go ahead.
This podcast, well, not this one per se, but I believe, and I'm pretty sure that I'm definitely sure that my Lone Gunman podcast episode has been referenced in a book before. And all you have to do is reference the episode. And if you really want to get to brass tacks, you can reference the exact time that I said whatever I said. You know,
I think what he's talking about is
cited.
It can be cited.
It can be cited.
But this part about it costs very little to have it transcribed by computer. If he wants to sponsor the transcriptions, fucking A, pony up, Hoss. If it's that fucking cheap, right? Yeah.
We don't charge admission for these shows. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And we ain't making much money off of this.
So,
no. Yeah.
And when you say not much, clarify that as none. That's how not much money we make off this. But then he insults me, dude. He says, "But your refusal to do so, transcribing them by computer for the convenience of him, because this is the first time in 7 years and 184 episodes this has ever come up. It's the first bitch about it I've ever gotten. He says, your refusal to do so puts you in what John Judge described as the post-literate generation. Good luck being serious without a posted transcript. Go for an Emmy. All right? Now, so he invokes the late, great John Judge to insult me and call me post-literate. Now, understand that William Kelly's entire content in this thread consists of only four comments that consists of only 11 sentences. In only 4 comments and 11 sentences, consisting of only 6 sentences. 4 comments, 6 sentences. Mr. Kelly manages to commit, are you ready? 9 punctuation errors, 3 capitalization errors, and 6 spelling errors, Rob, including misspelling the word written.
And this guy is a blogger.
And he calls me post-literate. I mean, his coup de grace was to call me post-literate. Hell, he ain't even currently literate. I mean, who told this guy to proofread? Lee Harvey Oswald? And at this point, our dear friend Alan Dale chimed in. And this is what Alan Dale said. In my defense, he said, educational, informative, and convivial. Also a bullshit-free zone. Serious and recommended by me. So I looked up the word convivial, and after I read what it meant, I thanked Alan for that nice comment. And then Mr. Kelly says, Alan, all I ask is the shows be transcribed so they can be posted and sourced. If they are serious, educational, and informative, they would be transcribed and posted, as all serious research is. And at this point... Bullshit. And at this point, loyal listener, Mr. Todd Vaughn, chimed in with this comment. William Kelly, STFU, exclamation point. Todd, stand up. You are now a member of the honor roll.
Bravo, sir.
That's right.
That deserves a round of applause.
And Ted Rubenstein chimed in and also defended me, as did loyal listener to all 3 shows, Mr. Mark Schexnader. I know you've seen Mark liking and commenting on our stuff over the years. Oh, but I did respond to listener Todd Vaughn's STFU comment. I did respond. I said, Todd, now I'm actually working on transcribing all the episodes, especially for Mr. Kelly. The challenge is finding a stonemason in this day and age with a working knowledge of cuneiform. See, that's the hard part. But Rob.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug.
Yeah.
He invoked John Judge, correct?
Yes, to call me post-literate.
Now, if I am being perfectly honest here, John Judge, great researcher, had a lot of great ideas, did a lot of great things, never wrote a book.
Nope, never wrote a book.
He did write papers.
Lots of papers, yes.
Okay.
And did a lot of tremendous work.
He also did a shit ton of interviews on video.
Right.
Yep. And he's been cited from these videos in research for many, many years for things that he has brought forth and said on said video. Right. Now, it's no different. If you can cite a person speaking on a video, then you can cite a person speaking on a podcast.
That's right.
It's very easy. You can go to YouTube and look up the video, or you can go to iTunes and download a podcast. It's really pretty simple, folks.
Not hard to do at all. But,
not hard to do at all. Unbelievable.
But, Rob, somehow I don't think I've responded pointedly enough, especially considering his pretty fucking rude insult, given that, and this needs to be clear to everybody, he hasn't actually listened to the podcast.
Right.
Okay? And
Right.
I mean, what's the sense, Rob, in having a segment called Allow Me to Retort if we don't utilize it when warranted, right?
Exactly.
All right, well, let's do it. Guys, it's time for another edition of...
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
All right, Rob, I got to get my... Hang on. Now, I spent a lot of time on this response.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time putting this together and thinking about what I wanted to say, okay? In retort to Mr. Kelly. May I?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Mr. Kelly, sir, with all due respect,
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
this has been
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
on Quick Hits Podcast, JFK Assassination Research News and Notes with Rob Clark and Doug Campbell. All right, Rob, that's pretty much all I had for that one.
Yes. And from personal observation, Mr. Kelly, you dress like a homeless person.
Okay. And, we're probably going to
That
get
is
an email about that one. So we might as well just jump to emails now. What do you think, Rob?
Get yourself an iron.
Get your...
Yes.
Oh,
Get
wow.
those wrinkles out, sir.
I spend 3 hours every week ironing my shirts. Is it time for emails, Rob?
It is. I got
Oh.
one more T-shirt to iron, though, first.
Let's do it.
Oh, yes, wait a minute, Mr. Bozeman.
That's a jab at Doug because he irons his T-shirts.
I do. I cannot, and I'm not talking, it's not the white fucking T-shirts. All right. I wear a lot of different graphic tees. I got a huge collection.
But I don't. Do you iron your underwear as well? I just have to ask.
No. They stay pretty stiff anyway. All right, Rob, we better get through these emails because the timer is going to cut the lights on this floor of the building in 38 minutes.
We can do it.
We got to get through it, yeah.
Because we got a few here, buddy. And,
All
we're
right.
gonna get through them.
I'm ready.
We asked for it and we received.
Do we have
didn't
any
have
that
very many
are a little crazy?
Oh yeah,
Oh, good. We like those.
the crazies are back and the regulars are back.
Here we go.
We're good.
All right.
All right, this is from E. Howard Hunt's late wife, Joy. From Joy Hunt.
Joy Hunt.
Hello, gentlemen. I was listening to episode 13 when you were discussing General Magnifico. I just want to say this: forget General Magnifico. You'll always be generally magnificent to me.
Aw.
Love, Joy.
Aw, thank you, Joy.
Yes, thank you, Joy. You're the sweetest, and we missed you.
We
Please
did.
write more often.
Absolutely.
And this next email is from QJ Scorzani.
QJ Score.
And it's just-
QJ Scorzani.
Yeah. And its subject is just wondering. Not wondering, just wondering.
QJ
Okay.
Scorzani.
Billy Lovelady. Was he a she-male?
Was that the sum total of the email?
Yeah. That's it.
guy is drunk, but there he goes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not aware of the accusation that Billy Lovelady was a she-male. Pretty sure he was married with kids, which means he has the right parts to make a kid
He
with
was
a
equipped.
woman. So I don't think he was a she-male. And he did not have great tits either.
That looked like male
in
pattern
that plaid
baldness
shirt,
to me,
I must say.
right?
Yeah.
That was some straight
Yes.
male pattern baldness. Baldness. Yes. So I'm going to say no.
All right. Our next one comes from a friend of the show, another A+ student, Ann Chapman. Okay.
Hey, hello, Miss
Hey,
Ann
guys.
Chapman. How you doing?
Yeah. The title is I Can Prove It Was Oswald's Rifle. Okay. Very intriguing here.
Okay.
She says, "Hi, guys. You know all that kerfluffle about the rifle and was it Oswald's, etc. Well, I can finally prove it was his and he did do it. Case closed. How? Well, I'll tell you. Oswald was gay, of course. And as we learned in that infamous podcast of Rob's, gay guys... Wait, hold on. Let me start over. I got tongue twisted there. Oswald was gay, of course. And as we learned in that infamous podcast of Rob's, gave guys a good time in the parks of New Orleans in between distributing leaflets and STDs probably. So what type of rifle would such a person buy? Why, a man liquor, of course. Keep up the good work.
And I got to say, Ann, look,
that did not come off nearly as cool as it sounded in your head.
I'm just saying.
But we still love you, Ann.
We love you. We love you. Keep writing. Keep writing.
Yes.
And we'll keep amusing ourselves with, well, you know, each other. Did that sound right? That didn't sound right. I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead. All
right. This next one's right up your alley, Doug. And this comes to us from Hugh Anusworth.
We
The subject of this email is the connection between the JFK assassination and Magnum PI. Are you intrigued, sir?
Of course. Of course.
Okay.
Sinatra was a guest on Magnum PI.
Hey, y'all. I wonder if you gentlemen are aware of the connection between the JFK assassination and Mr. Doug's favorite TV show, Magnum PI. Well, Magnum was co-created by writer and producer Donald P. Belisario.
Yes, Belisarius Productions was the name of the company.
Yep. Belisario also created such fine shows as Airwolf, Quantum Leap, JAG, and NCIS, as you probably know, Doug. But here's the kicker.
Airwolf was not that great, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But here's the kicker. Earlier in his life, Mr. Belisario served in the Marine Corps alongside none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. He knew Oswald personally.
Dun, dun, dun.
And now the Magnum theme plays out in Assassination Conspiracy podcast. Coincidence?
Absolutely.
Hugh Anusworth. Very cool. Very cool.
They put a lot of time into
that's more that synchronicitous JFK magic.
Yeah. It was, we'll get into that later. But yeah, maybe that's what it is. Synchronicitous. Make a great name for a band.
Yes. And this is our last email, and this comes to us from listener Charles Williamson. Rob and Doug, really enjoy both your podcasts and the Quick Hit Show. Question: now that Marie Tippett has passed, has anyone tried to contact her surviving son or daughter? Her other son died a few years ago from cancer, I believe. When Marie was alive, it seems the Dallas police kept close tabs on her. Wonder if they do the same with son and daughter. I believe the actual shooters in Dealey Plaza were Cubans that were trained by Rip Robertson and another American paramilitary guy whose name I can't remember. I think it would take someone who was very dedicated to a cause to actually shoot the president rather than someone doing it for the money. The photo of Rip and his guys in South America on the 22nd of November 1964 with one guy holding an umbrella is very, very intriguing to me. I also think the number of years that some guys lived after the assassination is in direct correlation to how close they were to the operation and how much they really knew. Guys like Jerry Hemming, Frank Sturgis, and Lauren Hall were around for quite a while after Dallas and all seemed to do a fair amount of talking. Anyway, keep up the good work. Charlie in Maryland.
Mr. Charlie, that was a great email, and you are right on the money there. I will say, though, the photo of Rip and his guys was actually in the Congo in Africa in 1964. It was part of the Am World operation, I believe. David Boylan is chasing down those Congo guys. And in that bunch, you got people like Chichi Rodriguez, and you've got Antonio Soto, and you've got Carlos Hernandez, who David Boylan believes was the Carlos Hernandez with Oswald at Robert McEwen's place, trying to pay, what was it, $1,500 for a, $30 rifle or some shit. But, yeah, I think you're on the right track there. If you're looking around Rip and about the guys he trained and later went to Africa with, you're on a good trail there, Mr. Charlie. Absolutely. Great email.
And as for the Marie Tippett stuff, who really knows? I don't think that they ever really interacted much with researchers over the years. I know her sons had, or one son at least in particular, I'm not sure if it's the one who died or if he's still alive, got it with quite a bit of legal trouble at the end of the 60s there with some rape allegations and some jail time and other nasty things. So who knows? I mean, I don't think they were involved in any way, shape, or form. They were just in a bad place at a bad time and married to the wrong person, and they're victims of history.
There you go.
When those kind of things happen, I know they came into a very large sum of money shortly after the assassination, probably to the tune of $1 million or so from donations throughout the world.
And that's something that she passed along. She, Marie Tippett, J.D. Tippett's widow, spent her life working for other police widows, and she was, from what I understand, responsible for a lot of good and benevolent work in that regard throughout her whole lifetime, to which she should be absolutely
nothing but
lauded.
A sweet lady. And if you go to the Lone Gunman from the Vault podcast, you will find an interview in there with Marie Tippett that might answer some more of your questions. So go check that out and download.
Awesome.
Thank you, Charlie, for listening. And Doug, that's all I have for emails today, buddy.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps the show up, dude. I think we got a good one. This is going to be great.
I told you it would be.
Man, we knew it though. They're always fun. They're, I don't know what the audience gets out of them, but I always get a shit ton out of it. Rob, what about you?
Yeah, I love doing it. I learn stuff every time, and always have a blast doing it with my buddy Doug. Always.
Man. Oh, we're going on. We're in our 8th year doing this together now. In one form or another. 8 years, guys. 8 years, long time, and we're coming up. I can't wait till 2024 when we can do the 10-year thing. That's got to be a big year for us,
Yeah.
We'll go back and
God willing, we're still around.
God willing, we'll go pull a bunch of sound bites from the early shows when we were still doing it from home, and it sounded, like it was like fucking some damn
shit.
Pony Express bullshit or something, We might as well have been doing that.
Somebody threw audio up in the mixer.
Yeah, I heard that. Like doing it underwater and shit. All right, Rob, dude.
I remember I used to sit in my car with the radio doing the intro music and outro music. No shit,
dude.
And yes, those episodes are.
Man, the first couple of episodes of the Dallas action, the intro music was an Android tablet propped up next to a boom box, a CD boom box. I shit you not. Yep. Man,
yeah, those were the days.
We come a long way, Rob.
I know.
All right. Well, dude.
Still got a long way to go, brother.
A long way to go. Well, dude, wrap us up, man. Take us out, and I'll follow you.
All right, listeners. You all got a long way to go, too. If you have not checked out the Lone Gunman podcast, which I host and have hosted for the past 7 years, coming up on 8, you're missing out. There's over 85 episodes, 186, something like that, I believe, of the Lone Gunman podcast out there for your free perusal and download and audio enjoyment. You can follow the page on Facebook. Just search for the Lone Gunman podcast and like the page, or you can follow me on Twitter at the Lone Gunman 7. And you can listen to the Lone Gunman podcast wherever you downloaded this show and listened. Just search it. You'll find it. Google it. You'll find it. And especially special shout out to all of my listeners on YouTube. I mean, sometimes, Doug, it blows my mind because it's not included in the Spreaker statistics anymore. How many people listen to the show? And just to give you a small example, in the last month, now I have this app that tells me YouTube analytics, right?
Right.
In the last 28 days of the Lone Gunman podcast on YouTube, okay, people have spent 1,600 total hours listening to various shows.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man.
Total,
I know what you mean.
There has been 3,164 views in the last 28 days. And it's just, it's mind blowing. How, I mean, 3.2 thousand views. I mean, that's crazy in a month, just on YouTube. And that's not included in the Spreaker statistics at all anymore.
Yeah, and then with Spreaker, you got to add Spotify and iHeartRadio and all that stuff. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to what we do. Thank you for studying with us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And if you like it too, spread the love, man. Turn your friends on to our podcast. Send them a link. Say, hey, check this shit out. Listen, you'll be interested. People always need to learn about their history. You know what they say? Those that don't know their history are doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
So brush up on some stuff. Help your friends out. Doug.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Lone Gunman podcast. Absolutely, guys. And thank you for listening to this show. Thank you so much for joining us on this Quick Hits number 23. You can find my podcast, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, just like Rob's, anywhere you find quality podcasts. Ongoing, in-depth, informed, detailed study of the conspiracy to assassinate President John F. Kennedy. Another fine show, guys, from Drop D Podcast Productions. So, for Rob Clark and everyone at Drop D Podcast Productions, this is Doug Campbell saying tune in again next time when, while spending a quiet evening at home with his associate director and longtime roommate Clyde Tolson, we'll hear then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover say,
"Firmly grasp it in your hand. Firmly grasp it."
We are out.
Firmly grasp it.